Let's keep this going. And more news. It's gonna be a little Joe Budden clip. LL Cool J, Snubs, Jay-Z, Kanye, DMX, and the Mount Rushmore of Def Jam artists.
Cool J sat down with Shannon Sharp.
He did?
Yes.
I said I wasn't gonna watch it.
I watched that shit.
I watch it just because everything LL say looked like he ready to punch somebody in the face. Honestly, that's really why I
Yeah, ask Jamie Foxx if that's true.
watch. LL's been on a run right now.
Yes,
He's been everywhere, and how he sound, niggas from that era of that ilk, it's a thing. You can hear it, like Army niggas with that shit they get when they done killed too many people.
Yeah.
PTSD.
LL don't say nothing normal.
No.
Everything he says sound like at any given moment I'll slap the shit out of somebody. For real, I'm off.
No, you're not.
Do y'all hear that? Can y'all hear it?
Yes.
I ain't gonna lie.
All right, man.
As old as LL is at this point, how old is LL? Let me see exactly. 56. So he's almost 60, which is, it's pushing it. It's getting up there. And like the fact that he's still 56 and he still looks like he would fuck up a lot of dudes. He ain't lying in that sense.
And respect to fucking L. All right, nigga, that's a big nigga to just fight off the whim without knowing it's coming. Without knowing.
You got to train for that one.
Yeah, without that being, if that need to be like 3 o'clock high. I need to know at least 45 minutes in advance if LL is angry at me. Are you shitting me? Hell no.
What? He's like an uncle that, you got the younger uncles around, but here comes the man uncle, their brother, the big brother.
The real uncle, yeah.
The real uncle.
The uncle that's into that shit.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I don't give a fuck what they told you.
Yeah.
Fuck all that what they told you. Are they men? Are they a real man? Like, he got that. He did my show. He says that. He's like, bro, like, I'm an MC. I don't understand how niggas talking about money. And, he really ain't with that shit. He's trying to bring that true shit back to hip-hop, and he's the first superstar in hip-hop history, so he has the right to do so.
Yeah. They asked L who was on his Mount Rushmore of Def Jam. LL said the Beastie Boys, him, Public Enemy, and Slick Rick. Look at you.
Beastie Boys, LL Cool J. He said Rakim and Slick Rick. Did he say Rakim?
And Slick Rick. The Beastie Boys, him, Public Enemy, and Slick.
Beastie Boys, him, Public Enemy, and Slick Rick. That is kind of a crazy Mount Rushmore. Like, regardless of how you feel, like, I know a lot of like younger hip hop fans might not know all those names or be familiar with their music or their impact. That is a crazy Mount Rushmore, Def Jam or not. Like, those are massively impactful acts on their own. And like, considering that this is just a Def Jam list, and considering LL Cool J is literally Mr. Def Jam, like they built a label on his back, is it's not a bad list. It's not a bad list. The way that he had this titled, it had me thinking it'd be a bad list, but like really thinking about it, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. LL Cool J, he's the #1 Def Jam artist of all time. I don't care what anybody says. He literally carried that label on his back from the get-go. They were able to even build anything because of his absolute super stardom. Beastie Boys, like, regardless if you even really are familiar with them or their music, their impact was absolutely undeniable. They were one of the biggest things out, one of the biggest things smoking, and like they also are a big reason why LL Cool J is who he is. They put him on. They showed him the ropes. Like, they were the first kind of like group and band of their ilk to really make noise, and like the amount of like impact they had on expanding the culture of hip hop to like other groups and audiences cannot be stated enough. And like the fact that they were Def Jam artists and like Def Jam like really discovered them, they deserve to be there as well. Public Enemy, I know they don't get talked about nearly as much as they should. But it's not a bad list. I mean, it's not a bad addition because, again, if we're just looking at impact, they've had a massive impact. Do I think they've had as much as an impact, ongoing impact on artists and people to follow as, say, a DMX? No. But in terms of like Def Jam original acts, hard not to kind of consider them. Hard not to. And then I guess the last one was Slick Rick. Not sure how I feel about that one. We're gonna have to discuss a little more.
Slick Rick. Mm-hmm. Look at you. Come on.
You didn't say Rakim?
Come on, Kamala.
He was not on Def Jam.
Rakim was on Def Jam.
Okay.
Come on, Kamala. Get it on.
Sorry.
Come on. Go ahead.
I love Mel.
Yeah, no, Mel's a great. Go ahead, jump in.
Did I read something wrong?
And it was Big Daddy Kayne.
And then the fans got mad because he didn't say Run DMC, and then he replied saying Run DMC was not a Def Jam act for the people that were not in the know.
Which is true. Run DMC was not a Def Jam act. They were a big part of Def Jam and like the building of it, but they were not an actual Def Jam act.
That was that. I don't have anything to say about his Mount Rushmore.
I can't. Who could
can
argue
say something?
LL
Can't.
Cool J about Def Jam?
Have you ever heard anybody that played before Michael Jordan, Dr. J, Wilt Chamberlain, anybody say Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time? No, you never. They're not gonna disrespect their class.
Valid point. When you're discussing eras of artists, of athletes, of whatever, they can call it bias or whatever, but you are going to be predisposed to the era of artists and athletes that you personally saw and experienced their impact as you were coming up. So you are always going to put more weight on the artists from your era than artists from different eras, because like that's who you grew up with. That's who you watch. That's who you idolize. That's who you like were there to experience and witness their greatness in its prime. And like you'll never necessarily feel the same way about newer artists because it's something that you've seen. There is that bias when it comes to music, when it comes to sports, when it comes to movies, when it comes to almost any pop culture. You're going to be biased to the era that you're in. So I'm not surprised that pretty much everybody you put on here are like older legacy acts.
What LL did was honor his class. There's nothing wrong with that. It would have been like, by the way, that is who built Def Jam.
It is.
That's who built the house, and Jay-Z and them and DMX and everybody who people want him to name. That's the people that put the trinklets in it, the nice shit. Now we're gonna put a nice refrigerator on there. Like we're gonna put this in there. We're gonna put a big screen. That's Jay and them put that on Def Jam. That's what they did. Who did that?
I think
I love the Ice and Ray Daniels music off that's been happening. I do like it.
I will say, the names he named laid the foundation.
Look at Ice, get him freeze. Look, he in his bag.
They put a little house there.
Yeah.
It was a little house.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big house.
It's not a little house.
There wasn't no little house.
Not a little house.
Come on, boss.
Compared to what?
It was the first house.
Proof of concept.
It was made at the biggest.
Proof of concept.
It was the biggest house at the time.
It was the biggest house we ever been in our life.
Yeah.
At the time.
Exactly.
And then the names that you mentioned, your Hoves, your DMX, took that and turned that shit into a skyscraper.
Don't exist
That's
without.
true, but you-
don't-
that's
So that's all I'm saying.
Those
You said
names-
what I said. I just didn't want to make. I just don't want
You
to go.
said little trinkets.
No,
and
I said
shit.
no. I
They
said
did
made
more
the
than
house
trinkets.
nice.
They took that house and lifted it, and now it sits up in the clouds.
But those names don't exist
Can I be
without
honest
proof
with
of
you? I
concept.
disagree.
Absolutely.
I gotta say.
That's why the house don't exist without the
I
foundation.
disagree.
go, Ray.
I disagree.
Let that nigga play with
they
you.
did
Go,
make the
Ray.
trinkets in the house
Turn up, Ray.
better, but what them niggas also did that the people that LL named couldn't do was they were able to build their own houses. That's what they did. Def Jam was the house that they contributed to, but they built their own houses. The niggas that LL named, they couldn't build a house. Building a house wasn't even a house. They were just happy to have a bed, a cot on the room.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So they made it there.
Get him, Ray. Back down, Ice.
I like arguing with this. I like arguing.
Back down,
I love
Freeze.
arguing. We gotta go today. Let's go.
Back down, Freeze.
Again, I'm not mad at the list. If you were to ask me my list, like as much as Slick Rick is beloved and like as much as like impact he's had, especially on like image of rappers and like kind of that whole glitz and glamour and jewelry and everything, like, and storytelling, DMX is 1000% on the Mount Rushmore of Def Jam and almost hip hop in general. Like from 1998 to 2003, he literally revived, carried Def Jam on his back. He had 2 platinum albums in 1 year. First time and only time ever done in hip hop. That man performed in front of almost 500,000 people in Woodstock, or so it seemed. He was different. He had #1 movies. He was a certified superstar. He started on Def Jam. His first album was Def Jam. So for him not to be on that Mount Rushmore is a little crazy. Jay-Z, Kanye West, I kind of understand why they're not on Mount Rushmore, because when you think about them and their music and their career and albums, discography, you don't think Def Jam. You think Rockefeller. And even though Def Jam definitely had like 50%, I believe, of Rockefeller since like the mid to late 90s, correct me if I'm wrong, they were Rockefeller records. They were artists on their own. They weren't Def Jam artists. You didn't associate the two like you associate LL, Beastie Boys, Public Enemy with Def Jam. So if anything I was gonna put on, I might take Slick Rick off and put DMX. DMX deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of Def Jam. Just does. He was that special. He was that big, and he did that much for that label, especially when they were kind of floundering in the late 90s and early 2000s. Cannot be understated. Cannot be understated. Other than that, like, I don't really have a problem with it. Like, I understand where he's coming from and why he said what he said, but like leaving DMX off of Def Jam all-time list or Mount Rushmore, it's kind of federal in itself. Like, kind of federal, but I'm mad at it. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think should be on Def Jam's Mount Rushmore? Who do you think shouldn't have been on there? Like, is DMX an absolute shoo-in, as he should be? Let me know in the comments down below.